Hi, I'm Dandy Reiner from Hatchfinder's Fly Shop in Livingston, Montana. Today I'm going to tie a fly for you called the Purple Haze. I'm tying this in a size 12. I typically tie it in a 12, 14, and 16. And I start with purple thread. I take it to the hook point. And if you're wondering what kind of thread this is, it's a rainbow blending thread. I'm really happy with this. It's pretty darn sturdy, and it gives it a really good color. So I've got my thread base. Next I want to add in my tail, and I use mousse for my tail. And I only need about 4 or 5 strands of mousse. And I try to even up the tips. And I want my tail to be about the same length as the hook shank. So I kind of measure it with my thumbnail, mark it off, and tie it in at the hook point. And I like to wrap up all my little mousse strands in with my thread. It just gives me a good base for the body. I do even wraps, and then I just trim off all this excess hair. Wrap up all the excess. And I want to get to about 1/4 inch behind the eye. And this is where I'm going to tie in my parachute. And I'm using EP fibers. This is a wonderful, wonderful material. It comes in a huge variety of colors. It floats very well. So I just take a strand of the EP fibers, and I start to lay it on top my hook, make a couple of wraps, and then I take this excess here and I want to kind of taper it off. And then I just bring my thread back, cinching up all that excess EP fibers, and that gives me the base for a body. Next, for my body, I use a purple larva lace, just 1 strand. And I tie it in right above the tail, bring my thread up to right behind the parachute, and I start wrapping the larva lace. And I wrap to just behind the parachute. Tie it off. Trim off the excess. Now I go ahead and form my parachute. And I take my thread and I just go around the parachute, bringing it into an upright position. I wrap my thread around the hook shank, securing it in. If I have any little gaps in the front, I'll fill it in with my thread, getting everything nice and even. And then for my hackle, I use a hen neck from Whiting Farms, and I use a grizzly. And I'm tying this fly in a size 12, so on my hackle gauge, I measured a size 12 feather. Expose the stem a little bit, and I go ahead and tie it in. And I want to make sure that it's tied in dry fly style, which is the dull side down, the pretty shiny side up. I pull my parachute back if I need to even things up. And then I go ahead and I twist that around the parachute. For a size 12, I'll make 4 or 5 wraps. And then I take my thread, I come underneath all that hackle 2 or 3 times, and I end up with my thread right behind the eye. Pluck off the excess little tag there, and I pick my hackle up to get it out of my way, and I finish my wraps right behind the eye, and I use the thread as the thorax. I just build it up where it needs to go. And I take my whip finisher, put a few good knots in it. Cut it off, and then I trim up my parachute to where I want it. This is an attractor pattern, and it works on the weariest of fish. It works great on hot summer days, and it's a fabulous summer fly, the purple haze.